Yes, the screen is meant to be black. This is a radio interview that I did on Cape Talk about mental health awareness and my book, A Combustible Life. I'll leave all the links in the description, and I would love some comments, likes, subscribes, and forwards. Thank you very much.
Let's turn our attention to more serious matters now, and October marks Mental Health Awareness Month, and it is time for us to turn our attention to this matter. And once upon a time, my next guest found himself sitting in a car outside a hardware store, trying to pluck up the courage to go inside and buy a hose pipe so he could gas himself in his garage. Imagine how desperate he must have felt to be in that position. At the time, Keegan O'Connell was on a temporary discharge from a psychiatric unit in Oranjezit, where he'd been admitted with depression. Keegan's written a book now about his battle with depression in the hope that it'll help change the narrative around mental health and the issues around affordability and access to support. He's also planning to use this Mental Health Month to start spreading awareness and seek out individuals and institutions that could benefit from donations. In January, he plans to run 31 marathons in 31 days to support this endeavor. He joins us now by Zoom. Good morning and welcome to Weekend Breakfast, Keegan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Amy. Thanks for having me.
Keegan, when did your struggles with mental health begin?
Amy, they started, I was first diagnosed when I was 19, and interestingly enough, it took many years to be able to, and through the help of my psychiatrist, actually wind the clock back and realize that it really first set in when I was about 10 years old. However, between that age and 19, it presented itself on very rare occasions, but it was clear that there was something wrong. However, when I reached 19, I was, as I said, diagnosed, and that was when it really hit hard, and I realized that depression is actually a real thing, because prior to that, I didn't really pay much attention, and if you told me somebody was depressed, I would have sort of had the attitude of, oh, I'll just tear up, which is something that now, over the years, I've realized that doesn't work. If you are clinically depressed, telling someone to cheer up is not going to work, unfortunately.
Keegan, at what point would you say you were at your lowest? What was rock bottom for you?
So the incident that you talked about in Cape Town, I live in Durban, but I was living in Cape Town at the time, and I was doing quite well. I went through a breakup, which was quite difficult. Things weren't, going great at work, and I saw a psychiatrist for the first time. Prior to that, I had my medication prescribed to me by a GP, and I saw the psychiatrist, and she changed my medication, and very ignorantly in terms of myself, stopped the one medication and started another one just like that, instead of weaning myself off. And within a matter of weeks, I was in the psychiatric unit. I was suicidal, and the bottom had fallen out from under me, and I was at the point where I really just wanted to die, to get rid of the pain that I was experiencing. And sitting in the parking lot was around the corner from my flat, and as you said, trying to pluck up the courage to actually go in and buy the hose pipe to take my life was definitely the lowest I've ever been, in my 38 years on this planet.
Mm. And where to from there? How did you begin to claw your way back up, Keegan?
So it took a while. I would say, from that point to, getting to a point of sort of full function took a full 14 months. However, the last 6 months of that, 14 months, I was sort of clawing myself back, and things were getting better and better. But what really, I think, at the end prompted my trigger back to, a normal state was when I moved back to Durban from Cape Town, and I took a job here. I was very happy to be home, and things sort of clicked into place and put me on an even plane for quite some time.
If you've just tuned in, it is 13 minutes after 8 o'clock. My name is Amy McCabe. I'm in conversation with Keegan O'Connell, the author of the book, A Combustible Life, My Ongoing Struggles with Manic Depression. And we are shining a light on depression. October is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's a very important topic and a very important conversation to have. Keegan, what prompted you to write this book that you've just published?
So I was at a point in another very, very low point in my life. It was COVID had affected my business. Things weren't looking good. My father had passed away, and I was diving into a really deep, dark place. And I started writing things down really out of desperation. And initially it was just to write, to get it all out on paper. And then at a later stage, I thought, well, maybe this can become a book, and I can try and help other people that are in a similar position to me, but also break the stigma, because personally, I have been subject to this stigma, and I think it's an individual thing that we impose a stigma on ourselves. And look, the whole depression issue from when I was a lot younger, I had always been incredibly embarrassed about it. And I felt at the point that I was in my life, it was time to actually come out and tell people at large, instead of just the people that are very close to me, and try and liberate myself from that embarrassment and from the stigma, and through that be able to reach others.
Was your experience of the stigma purely self-imposed, or were you in fact actually judged by others?
Well, I wasn't judged by anyone at all, which is fantastic. So the first time that I really told friends was when I was hospitalized in Cape Town, because prior to that, I've always been really, really good at hiding it because I was so embarrassed about it. But I told my very close friends then, because I had to, and they were very welcoming, no judgment whatsoever. And then back in Durban, when I decided to write the book,